We're here with Miss Jonelle Richardson, the department head at the Department of Sports.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right. So it was recently announced by the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports that in collaboration with the NEPA school, there are plans to introduce a SPL Level 3 and 4 sports program. So can you give us an overview of this project and how it came about?
Yeah. Firstly, the NEPA, the program itself is being done by NEPA, so it's initiated by NEPA, and they're doing it in collaboration, or the person that's organizing the actual program itself. She's consulting with the Department of Sports and the Sports Federation in order to determine what the content of the course is going to be. So we, within the department, last year also saw a need for there to be options for young people and persons who may not necessarily want to go off to study in school, and maybe they might want to stay here in St. Martin and do something different. And we thought it necessary also to see that this type of program is created to give them an option to stay here and still study and still be able to get work on the island. So we're happy that NEPA initiated the program, and we're happy to be working with them in the research stage of the creation of the program, so that this gives our young people another opportunity to study and do something that they might love.
Okay, now you mentioned the Federation of Sports and your department are working in the development. Can you be a little more specific in how much input will these two entities have in the final project?
Well, we have a desire to see the program itself developed. So Ms. Somers, who was contracted by the NEPA, she contacted us and said, well, okay, what is the desire of the department, and what is the desire of the St. Martin Sports Olympic Federation? How would the program help out the organizations? And from our perspective within government, what options, because obviously our ministry is education as well, so and sports and youth and culture. So it's important that there are educational options. So we're working with the education department as well with the creation of the curriculum. But from our perspective, it's important to see that, for example, we know that young people can engage in sports. And if maybe they don't necessarily want to go to university to do something academically, they could have an option to study some type of sporting program, whether it's within hospitality or it's as a coach or it's as a personal trainer. These are other options for these kids to be able to engage and be gainfully employed.
Right. So now you mentioned a couple of the options that will be available: physical trainer, sports assistant. Can you go into the different areas that will eventually be available that students may want to choose from?
Well, it's still in the creation stage. So at this point, the department is assisting Ms. Sommer with whatever information we have regarding our policies, our policies, and potential legislation that we're looking to develop, so that we can go into a particular direction in terms of the creation of the actual curriculum itself. But those are the areas that they are focusing on. NEPA decided that those were the 3 areas that they would like to focus on in creating this curriculum. And a lot of the research that she's doing is European-based, American-based, and also using what our norms are here in St. Martin to determine what the content of the course is going to be. So I can't give you specifics about the content of the course because it's still in its development stage. And so once I know that, then I'll be able to obviously give some more information. But at this point, it's in its research phase of development.
Okay, and just to go over in the press release a little bit, it did state the 3 areas that you're looking at are for physical education assistant to assist in the schools or the afternoon schools, sports activity coordinator for the hospitality sectors, for the hotels, and also personal training and coaching. So
the course itself is level 3 and 4, so it can go up to 4 years. And what they're looking to do is have it as inclusive as possible. So I imagine that the first couple of years would be very general, so that you understand about first aid and your understanding about life saving, and one of the other things that they're consulting with us on is what sports are important to us and what are the main sports that we are focusing on as a Department of Sports, so that they can ensure that these sports are covered within the course curriculum, so that whoever comes out of it, for example, a PE teacher doing this course will have a general understanding about our main sports here on the island. So that the idea is to incorporate all of this, and then obviously, if you're trying to get into the hospitality sector, for example, you want to be a dive instructor, or you want to be a lifeguard, or something of that nature, activities person within the hospitality sector, then it's important that you know how to do first aid, that you know how to do those basic things within the sport to assist tourists. And then the last one, as a personal trainer, those when you get to that point, then it's about specializing. So from what I understand, over the last third or fourth year, then you'll specialize in these individual areas, so that you can branch off if you want to.
Great. Now, it's great that the students, as you mentioned first, those that may not want to leave the island have the opportunity to pursue this on island. Do you know from your position at the Department of Sports how many, or if there are a great number of students that actually do choose to study sports?
We have a lot of students, obviously, that are able to get a scholarship to go away for school. But there are a lot of students that do fall through the cracks. I can't tell you a specific number of those people, but we do know that within the schooling system, there's a lot of kids who choose not to go away for one reason or the other, maybe family or whatever. And sometimes they don't necessarily make the grade for them to be able to get a scholarship. So it's about providing that opportunity. And NEPA is that type of institution that creates other avenues for young people who may not be able to go off for school, because they have different types of programs over there that are not necessarily academically inclined. But I can't, to be honest with you, I can't tell you specifically numbers.
Okay. I do know that we have a number of MOUs with different schools throughout the U.S. I'm not so sure about the Netherlands or Europe, but definitely throughout the U.S., where specific types of programs, more hospitality-based, where we send students.
Yes. Yeah.
Are there any plans to maybe with a sports background reach out to any of these types of schools?
Mr. Aventurin of Study Financing is best to answer that question. But from what I understand, I know that we have, for example, like you're saying, agreements with Tallahassee and schools in New York, and there are definitely agreements with schools in Holland as well, for students to do different types of programming. I've had discussions with Mr. Aventurin about providing more options that are for people who would want to study sports programs, and this is one of the things coming out of those types of discussions I've been having with Mr. Aventurin as well. But besides that, as a department, we are encouraging, for example, athletes who want to get into sports management and that type of stuff to make that known, so that we can kind of assist also with that, and not just about the personal training or the hospitality area, but also going to university level, whether it's in the States or studying in the region. I know that education is connected to some of the schools in Curacao and Aruba, those technical schools, to offer these types of programs as well. And I know St. Martiners are in these different programs because NEPA, for example, doesn't offer some of these courses. So it's good that we are now able to offer this type of course here to give young people an option.
The course will be available to, as stated in the release, PSVE, PKL, TKL, and CXC students. I noticed that MAVO, HAVO were not included in that section. Was there any reason for that?
I don't think so. I think the program is open to most people, but the HAVO, MAVO students tend to go into more academically inclined programming, and they tend to get the scholarships to go, whether it's to the States or to Europe. So the idea is to encourage these ones who tend to fall through the cracks, give them another option. And, sports is an exciting thing, and young people like to engage in sports. So it'd be good that they can not only play the sport and be good in that particular sport, but also progress more in sports, and whether they're coaching and teaching it, or they're assisting tourists in that particular area, it's important that we can give them an option. But I think it will be open to whomever meets the grade, because there will obviously be entry criteria, and if you meet it, then yeah, it will be open to you.
Now, for those persons that may not know Mrs. Zomers, she is the consultant that was hired to put this program together.
Yes.
Can you give us a little bit of background on her specializations and maybe why she was chosen and what she brings to this project?
From what I understand, she did a master's in education and sports, those two areas. I wasn't necessarily involved in the hiring of the consultant, so I'm not sure necessarily of her background, but from having discussions with her, I know she did a master's in education, and I believe she was also a teacher at some point as well. So, but she specializes in curriculum development, and she has an interest in sports as well. So, I guess that's the pull for bringing her in as a consultant.
Stay tuned. You're watching Inside Government. Family law, criminal law, labor law, corporate law, immigration law, electoral law, tax law, environmental law, inheritance law. The law matters to you. A joint venture between the Department of Communication and the University of St. Martin. The lecture series, The Law Matters to You, is aimed at informing and providing the general public of St. Martin about the different laws. We invite you to visit the official government website at www.stmartingov.org for details on upcoming lectures. The law matters to you, bringing the law closer to the people.
Moving away from NEPA for a little bit, you've held at this point 2 Brown Pelican Awards, two very successful in my opinion, Brown Pelican Awards.
Thank you.
And we are coming up to that time again. So have preparations started? Where are you in the process?
Yeah, preparations have started. We start pretty early in the year for it, largely because we require information from the different sports organizations to be able to determine who the nominees are and then the eventual winners. So we've been engaging already with the sports organizations. We already engaged with the service providers who provided us the service last year. They've been doing a very good job for us. So we're always having discussions with them and in preparation. So at this point in time, we're still trying to determine which sport we're going to highlight this year, I think boxing is one of those that's up there, and cricket is also one of those that's up there. So we're still waiting to see how we're going to see which sport we're going to highlight. But besides that, the preparation has already started, and we're definitely looking forward to a successful one this year. We always have in government, you always have budget constraints, so we're trying to see how we can best organize such an event and show due diligence to the concept, which is important for us to represent and recognize people in society, because you don't get that very much, So we don't necessarily want to get rid of the concept, because we think it's important that we can recognize people in society and what they're doing in the area of sport. And I think also people look forward to it, and they dress up and they come out and they're very happy to see, and they feel very good about themselves that we are recognizing their contribution to sport in general. So we're definitely looking forward to it. We have already started our awareness campaign concept for the year. There are 3 aspects that we focus on. One, a seminar conference, which we already had at the beginning of April. And that is us engaging with the different sports organizations and finding out from them, what their needs are and what they require from us as government, and then letting them know also what our plans are for the year, so that they can bring the programs and we will say, this is what we would support, and we're trying to be a lot more proactive in saying, these are the things that we're looking into, youth in sports, school programs, after school programs, interscholastic tournaments, all of these different things we want to see happening so that we can engage more and more youth. And so, we are proactively letting them know the concepts that we're looking into, and then saying, if you create these types of programs, then more than likely we'll assist you in, executing some of these programs. So that was the first thing that we did. And then we have the sports open house, which is planned for late August, September, early part of September. And with that one, we last year, for the first time, we engaged the schools, and we had over 1,000 kids come to one of the to the event on the Friday. And that was really good that we were able to engage them and bring the schools and the kids and the sports organizations together, because it's important that we engage more and more kids. It's important for us that kids can see what the options are for them, and they can be positively engaged. And then obviously we'll get towards the end of the year, the grand finale of the Brown Pelican Sports Award. So we always have things up our sleeve, and we'll see how we can top ourselves this year.
I'm glad you mentioned that you've already had a seminar with the sporting organizations. One of my questions was going to be, how much attention or activity is there between the department and the sporting organizations? Is it something that sometimes you have to run after them, or do they actively
You always have to run
engage
after
with you?
people, because they are doing things on a voluntary basis. I'm blessed to be paid to do sport, and a lot of people are not that fortunate to work in an area that is their interest. So we're always going behind organizations. We're constantly trying to get more and more information from them. We have a group, almost an agreement with the St. Martin Sports and Olympic Federation, who is the overcoupling organization for all the different sports. And we also have our executing arm, the NSI, National Sports Institute. So we all kind of meet up and discuss our expectations and what we want to do and how we can assist each other as much as possible. So when we did the sports conference, we did it in collaboration with the Sports Olympic Federation to engage the organizations. But we go back and forth, and they come in and they ask questions, and they ask for assistance all the time. And we assess these different things as they come in, and we advise the minister on what we think, in the direction that, based on her governing program, the direction she wants to go. We try to advise as much as we can along those lines, and so we engage with them all the time.
All right, great. Now, besides the sports awards, which is probably the most visible, part of your ministry, your department, I know that in the sports department, you're mostly behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And a lot of persons out there may not know exactly what the sports department does on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
So can you give a little insight into your department and maybe some of the things that you're currently working on and things that you would like to see happen within the department?
Well, the Department of Sports is a policy department. So we are responsible for the creation of legislation in the area of sport. The department itself is a relatively, I want to say new or not so new. We became a department separate to youth in 2014, so it's about 3 years now. So our focus is on policy development and legislation development, as we don't have any at the moment. So the areas that we've been focusing on up until this point is, for example, youth engagement guidelines, for example, because we've seen a lot of, how should I say, not so pleasant things happening in sports and the interaction that coaches have had with young people. So we thought it necessary to put something together legally. And then we're also looking at our facilities. We want to see our improved facilities for usage by the different sports organizations, because sports tourism is another thing that we're really interested in. Last year we had a netball competition, we had a volleyball competition, we had soccer. So Little League had their one. I think it's either last year or the year before. And so sports tourism is also important to us, and we want to see more and more of these activities happening. We communicate with Department of Tourism as well, the Tourism Bureau, and we collaborate on some of these different activities. This year, We might have like a soccer tournament happening. We have a boxing tournament in the making as well. Team Don't Quit, they have their alternative sports event happening as well. So, these different things that are happening, and tourism is also interested in those things, and we want to see the development of sports, so we collaborate. So those are some of the programs that you'll see happening later on in the year. We also have a basketball tournament coming up, a LIBA tournament, under 19 tournament coming up as well. So that'll be good. But in terms of our focus, we really want to see sports being brought to the forefront. We want to see our young people being engaged positively. We've been working with the Sports Olympic Federation, and they are developing national teams in the various sports. Their aim is to participate in the CAC Games in Barranquilla in 2018, and we've been supporting them. As a matter of fact, a team is supposed to leave this weekend to go to Cuba for training, the national teams. So they're going to have a small delegation for the first time participating in a CAC Games. So that's our focus, to really develop sports, and not just about national teams on that level, elite level, but also recreational sports and engaging young people in the schools. So making sure we have interscholastic tournaments. Earlier this year, we had basketball, volleyball, interscholastic tournament. Last year, we had futsal and track and field. So we're going to every year add more and more sports to make sure that we're engaging them, not just in primary school, but high school, making sure that they participate, and we want to get more and more participation. So that's really important for us. And it's a part of the ministry's plan as well to engage persons more and make sure that the ones who are really good at sport are recognized for their abilities, and they also have the opportunity to progress in the sport outside of St. Martin. So it's about also creating those ties with whether it's universities, so that people can go to college and play their sport, or bringing scouts here so that they can potentially play, professionally. So there's a lot of stuff happening, and for us it's like, okay, we are starting from scratch. You're engaging the kids from primary school, high school, funneling them through the different sports organizations, and then through the different sports organizations you have your national teams, and then from there you want to see them flourish and either play professionally or go to college or study sports or continue in sports in some kind of way. So we're trying to tackle it in various aspects. We are responsible for policy development, so it is our intention to create policy to allow this environment to flourish, and then also support whether it's the St. Martin Sports Olympic Federation or different organizations, to ensure that they are there to train and to work with our kids and to ensure that they develop in sports.
Wow, that was a lot. You guys really are one of the busier departments out there, even though you're not in the forefront.
We're not in the forefront, but you know what? We were working on our branding and our marketing, so that we can bring this out a lot more. So you would see, like, for example, with the Brown Pelican, we have a concept for Brown Pelican, and we have a concept for our department as well. So for us, we're trying to put it out there as much as possible. We have a Facebook page, SXM Department of Sports, SXM, something like that, I think. And we're constantly highlighting, when athletes do very well, we highlight that on our Facebook page. So we're definitely trying to bring out more information. And when the minister has her Council of Ministers press briefing, if things are going on, we try to bring it out as well. But yeah, we're busy, and not a lot of people see that. But yeah, we're going to try and be more open and out there.
Jonelle, thank you very much for coming in. This was definitely a very enlightening interview, and we would definitely want to end this interview with some contact information for your department if persons were interested in maybe the NEPA program or some of the other things that you mentioned that are going on within the department. Yeah. How can they contact yourself or the department?
Well, my number is 520-4634. That's my personal number. We are based currently in the Vlon building, which is across from the post office. And the number there is 542-2056, 542-3873, and 643-9787 is the numbers that we have over at the building. So Jonelle Richardson, my staff, I have Lizanne Charles, who's my policy advisor there. I have Christian Granum, who's also there. I have James Busby, who's also there, and Idalia Rogers. So those are my staff. They're working very hard within the department, and they all have their little niche areas that they're interested in. So yeah, you can come and talk to any one of us, and we're always open for any sport organization, or if even people want to find out information about what's happening, then we're always open to help.
All right, Jonelle, once again, thank you for coming in.
Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.